Hey guys, Corey with Palmetto Battery Pros. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a lithium conversion on this 2016 EZGO RXV, and we will be installing a 48 volt 105 amp hour RoyPow battery. All right, first thing we're going to want to do before we get started is make sure your golf cart is off and in the tow position, which is going to be to the far right over here. Now that the golf cart is off and in the tow position, we're ready to go ahead and remove the batteries and completely clean out this battery tray. So I've cleaned out the battery tray, removed the batteries, cleaned them out. Tip, always take a photo of your batteries so you know what was hooked up to where. Now that the battery tray is cleaned out, we're gonna go ahead and put our mounting brackets in. So we have two of them and they only fit in one way. Go ahead and slide them into place and push them down. Then we will run our mounting bolts through the bottom down here. There's two mounting bolts, so we're going to drill this out, secure these mounting brackets to the cart. All right, using the nut and bolts provided, we'll put our nuts on the bottom. We're going to need a hand, somebody to hold a 13 mil on the bottom. Let's talk about the charge receptacle. You can see we have a red, a gray, and a black. Now the red and the gray ran to the positive, main positive post on your old battery bank, and the black went to the negative. So I've already cut these because I'm going to remove this receptacle completely and replace it with a port that will have a 120 mail in, so you just run your extension cord to your existing charge receptacle. And the one thing that you need to do to replace the charge receptacle and have your EZGO work is you're going to find this blue wire coming off of the charge receptacle. What we're going to do is we're going to take this blue, we're going to cut it somewhere along here where there's going to be enough wire to make it to the positive post. And we're going to put this wire that runs to the controller, we're going to cut it and run it directly to the positive post on our new battery bank. And once I ran and identified everything, I went ahead and cut out, you can see here I've cut everything that was running to my main negative bank on my old battery that I don't need anymore. So I think we have like the ground on our voltage meter, which we'll replace with the RoyPow voltage meter. There was a ground to the 12 volt reducer or the DC to DC converter. I went ahead and cut that out. I forget where these grounds were, but I just figured out that I didn't need these guys. This is a factory harness that runs back to the motor. So I'm gonna reinstall that on our new battery bank. And this is the ground, it has a fuse on it. Now this is the ground that runs to the USB port on the dash. So I'll definitely be hooking that back up. This is our main negative, and it runs directly to the controller right here, to the B minus on the controller. And I will be replacing this with the one that RoyPow sent. So I will hook up the new RoyPow one here and run the other side to our post, which I'm going to face my battery post towards the controller, so I don't have to extend anything and I can use what they supplied. On the positive side, you can see I've cut everything out. These went to the charge receptacle, which we're going to replace completely. This one went to the 48 volt voltage meter, which we're replacing, and this one went to the DC to DC converter. Main positive is kind of in rough shape, so there's a good amount of corrosion on it. And since RoyPow supplies the new one, I will be hooking this up. So this will run to my main positive, and on this side it runs to the solenoid right here. And one thing This yellow, I'm going to take it apart from the old wiring harness and put an eyelet on it, and then I'll put the eyelet here. All right, using your 1/2-inch wrench, go ahead and remove the main positive from your solenoid. Now we're going to take this wire, we're going to cut it back, strip it, and put an eyelet on it. Now we're going to find our main negative, which is down here a little bit farther, and we're going to go ahead and replace that. And it's a 10mm bolt that secures the negative to the controller. So we're going to go ahead and remove the old negative cable and replace it with the RoyPow negative cable, and they both should reach over here to the main positive and negative post on the RoyPow battery. Here's my positive, new eyelet put on the yellow, replacement positive from the RoyPow kit, and the B negative is right down here. And this is the one that I replaced to the controller. That's going to go to our negative post on our bank. So these are our new wires, main cables that come with the RoyPow kit. Now that we've identified everything that was hooked up to our existing battery bank, I'm going to set the battery down in place because the brackets are already in there, and we'll start hooking everything up, and I'll show you exactly which goes, or what exactly goes to each post. Tested this DC to DC converter, and I'm not getting 12 volts here, so I'm going to take all of this out, and I'm going to put in a different 12 volt reducer. Okay, to remove the charge receptacle, there are 3 Phillips head screws, 1, 2, 3, and I removed those, and it just pulls right out. So we can go ahead and disregard the old EZGO charge receptacle. We bypassed it by crimping an eyelet on the blue wire that runs to our controller, and we'll run this to the positive post on the RoyPow battery. All right, real quick, before we get the battery hooked up, I do want to address this bracket right here. And I thought about leaving it in there for some extra support or whatever, even though we really don't need it. It's a very solid mount with the mounting brackets. So I wanted to remove it, and this side was easy enough to remove. These are T50s that hold on each side. There's one T50 star bolt that holds this in place. This one's very difficult to get to. Well, a little difficult to get back here. See down there at the bottom. And so what I did was, to make it easy on myself, there are 2 star bit bolts here that hold the controller solenoid housing in place, and they are T45s. So I removed these 2. There's one here and one over here, and I'm able to slide the whole assembly forward. And move this guy up, and now we can reach that T50 back there and remove this. And the reason why I want to remove it is I don't want this metal rubbing on the battery pack. This is a 15-year battery, 12 to 15-year battery, and over time that's going to rust, this metal on metal on each side. It is very close, and so we're going to go ahead and remove it all together. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and mount our voltage meter. That way, when we hook the battery up, we'll be finished with the job. So this is, we're gonna take a little detour, go ahead and finish the voltage meter, run the wiring harness back to the battery. To do that, there are 3 10mm caps. They're not even really nuts, they're more caps, but there's 3, one here, one here, one here. Remove those. And then you can pop this top piece up. I've already done that, but just pop it up, remove it. And then there are 4 Phillips head screws that hold this front panel on here. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and mount the voltage meter. And there was an existing voltage meter down here. So I'm gonna just widen what was there to fit this. So I'm just gonna put the voltage meter down, trace it out, and then notch it out with a Dremel. Next, install the nut and bolt. All the Rxv wiring harnesses run through a slot from the battery compartment underneath the floorboard and up into the dash. To access this, we're going to pull the passenger side back. First, I'm going to remove this plastic cap here using some trim pullers, or pry it out using our T45. We're going to loosen this these 3 T45s up. Here's our wiring tray. Now that our voltage meter is installed, we'll go ahead and come to the back and plug in the voltage meter wiring harness. And we'll run it right back down with the rest of the wires and out through the bottom. There are 2 plastic clips here and here to remove this panel so you can run your cord underneath. And from this point, I would go ahead and pull enough slack through just to get to my battery. And then I will hide the excess in the dash. I'll zip tie it up together and you won't even see it. So plug this into the RS485 port, tighten it down. Now we need to address the 12-volt accessory issue before we move any further. That way we can hook everything up together to the battery pack. I'm going to put them here, and it's pretty close to the battery terminals, so it should work out pretty well. So before I mount them, I'm going to go ahead and hook everything up outside of the cart. It's a little bit easier. You will need to provide your own 12-gauge wire, and that's what I'm going to use to run this to the battery bank, and eyelet to secure it to the terminal. You see I've extended my 12-volt reducer input, and I didn't need to extend the 12-volt output. I'm just going to mount them both side by side. So. Okay, I've gone ahead and mounted the 12-volt reducer and the fuse block. Now we're ready to run our input wires over to the battery terminal side. So first we're going to go ahead and hook up our positive side, and here is everything we're running over to the positive terminal. First, and we're going to go from biggest to the terminal to the smallest. So first thing we're going to grab is the main positive coming from your solenoid. Second, we are going to, with our onboard charger connector piece, we are going to identify the positive, which is the ground. We're going to put that with the main positive. Next, the positive from your 12-volt reducer. And the final positive wire is going to be the blue wire that we identified from our charge receptacle. And we cut it and put an eyelet on it, and this will be the last item that'll go to our positive bank. Tighten it down using your 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter. Next,
we'll do the negative side, and there's a couple extra items on the negative side. First of all, of course, you have your main negative that ran from the controller, and then the onboard charger connector, followed by, and in this order it doesn't, there's two negatives. One runs back to the motor and the other runs to, it powers the USB port and actually has a fuse block on it. If you have the USB port in your dash, you're going to want to identify that ground, and the ground that runs back to the motor, and then you need the ground from your 12-volt reducer. And those are going to be the 5 items that we're going to put to our negative bank. Now, before you hook your negative bank up, verify your cart's in tow and that the main power supply, the power is cut off to the battery. And now you can go ahead and hook your negative side up. At this point, go ahead and hold the power button down for about 3 seconds. It will turn on. Put the cart in run. And hit the gas. Oh, not turning on. And we have operation. So let's go ahead and wrap this job up by installing our 12-volt accessories.
Here are my 12-volt accessories. I have the stereo system, and here are my lights. I'm gonna have to extend both these, and I'm gonna run them along with my existing wires here and run them to the fuse block. Our 12-volt reducer is hooked up, positive out for the stereo and the lights, and here's our grounds for both of those. Now that everything is installed and mounted and our wires are run and the battery is hooked up, we are going to do some wire management. This is the fun part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to zip tie and tuck everything away nice and neat. And I'm going to come over here, zip tie all this together. All right, now let's go ahead and replace this old EZGO charge receptacle. To do that, first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect everything from your battery bank. This is the main positives and the ground, and I've already done all that for the lithium conversion, but this old charge receptacle remains. So there are 3 Phillips head screws that hold this in, and you can go ahead and pull this out. And now we'll just disregard the old receptacle and wires altogether. And next we are going to use a T27 star bit, and we're going to remove the front panel. Go ahead and remove the front panel and disregard it as well. This is the replacement from Eco Battery. It's a perfect fit. They also provide new hardware. Phillips head, that's nice. And you can see it is the 120 male on this end and the 120 female, which will plug into our onboard charger. All right, before you mount the new receptacle, these metal brackets, you may have them, the RXV, you definitely have them. And I basically pried these out very carefully, not to damage the plastic, but pry these out. That way you can get a flush mount on this side. The charge receptacle has been tightened down. It's very secure.
no wiggle room. Now we'll find our charger input wire, which is this one right here. And I will tuck the excess back here and plug it directly into the back of the charge receptacle, the female end. Now that the charge receptacle is installed, we have completed this job. And I'll give you some good overview shots here in a minute. But now we're gonna go ahead and run a charge cycle and make sure this battery is topped off for the customer. So we're gonna go ahead and turn our battery on by holding the button down for 5 seconds. Battery is on. Put your cart and run. Open the cover. Extension cord with the ground. Plug it in. The charger will kick on and max charge the battery. It will shut off once the charge cycle is finished. And you also know it's charging from the dash mounted voltage meter. That is how you do a RoyPow installation on a EZGO RXV. All right, thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you out. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. And if you have any suggestions, we always love to learn new things. We're not know-it-alls, so please leave those in the comment section below. Please subscribe. We have more videos coming out on some of the updates on the lithium batteries, and also different carts, installations, and we're also going to be moving into marine lithium conversions. So keep a lookout for those videos. We hope to see you next time. Have a great one.